Faith Radio.
Let's go. Let's go, everybody. Let's go. Good morning.
Football Feast.
Oh, no! Holy Toledo!
Shall we begin?
I gotta turn this down, Bob.
I mean, pick your poison with that defense. Darnold puts Anderson in motion. Sam Darnold goes to sneaking right up the middle and touchdown, New York Jets. That is Sam Darnold's first National Football League rushing touchdown. Vikings 1 of 2 on fourth down today. Two tight ends, they're balanced. Munt left, Oliver right, straight eye behind Mullins on 4th and 1. Nick from under center, play action. Deep, Jefferson, there, touchdown! Mullins to Jefferson from 38. And it's 2012 Lions. A.J. Osborne by himself out to the left. It is a play action pass left. Caught Johnny Munt. Touchdown Vikings. 5-yard touchdown connection. Mullins to Johnny Munt. For Nick, his 5th touchdown this season. For Johnny, his first this season, 2nd of his career. And it's 30-9 Green Bay. 1st and 10 from the Green Bay 20. Cousins is going to loop one right. Caught! Touchdown! Jordan Addison with his 7th National Football League touchdown. That gives Minnesota a 23-3 lead. And for Jordan, that touchdown means he has the most in the history of the Minnesota Vikings through the first 8 games. 23-3 Vikings. Couple of receivers left, 2 out to the right, including N'Keal Harry. Ty Chandler, he takes the direct snap, sprints to the left. National Football League touchdown has given the Minnesota Vikings a 9-3 lead. Well, he's scooped by a Bill at the 25. To the 30, and is loose! Aaron Jones, 30, 20, touchdown! 57-yard drive. His long at Alabama was 52. Reichert, flying drive, come on! There we go. Oh, man, I love our kicker. There we go. Will Reichert from 57 with a line drive that might have been good from 61. Hey, Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale, what's going on? Welcome to the Friday Football Feast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new Minnesota Vikings season and a new season for the Friday Football Feast. Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale gets the money today. It is year 15 of the Buffalo Wild Wings Friday Football Feast. So from Favre through Folly to first downs at MetLife Stadium on Sunday, from Childress to Children spouting off in newspapers. Yes, this is the old Friday Football Feast because it's just so great to be here into a new season. Co-host Paul Charchian, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Wells with the technical guidance, ladies and gentlemen. Nick and his promotion staff here to serve you, and we welcome you to a radio show today for a football feast that will include Chad Greenway, one of the great tacklers and defensive players in the history of Vikings football. He'll be here about 10 minutes from now. Gabe Henderson from Vikings Entertainment Network at 10. The greatest running back in the history of New York Giants football, Tiki Barber, is going to be on the show today. Cool. Tiki, middle of the show. He's not going to be here at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. That's probably a $125 hit for an appearance fee, and I ain't talking $125. So we'll call Tiki, or he'll call us, middle of the radio show. Then Alec Lewis from The Athletic, he'll be here at 11 a.m. And Paul Charchian, as the co-host for the Friday Football Feast, we welcome you back, and we begin like this. How do we beat the New York Giants and begin 1-0? And good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Job number 1 is to stop the awesome defensive front four for the New York Giants. We all remember Dexter Lawrence basically putting us on that playoff L a few years ago. Some of us still have PTSD over that.
Yeah.
I'm still harmed to this point. They added Brian Burns. They've got Kayvon Thibodeau. And that is going to be, I think, the single biggest deciding factor.
Where's the fourth, or are you counting Dexter as two because he's so big?
I am, really. Yeah.
Or is it Boogie Basham?
Boogie Basham. We've got to be able to give Sam Darnold some kind of protection here, and those guys are just monsters. We're paying a lot of money for our tackles. They've got to hold up here. We don't always have the luxury of giving those guys help, but really the biggie for me, it's Dexter Lawrence against Garrett Bradbury on the inside. Bradbury got beat in that game 2 years ago. I want to think he's better now and that he's going to be able to handle this and that we know what's coming. But that, to me, Paul, that's the one biggest key, is handling those three premier rushers.
Hey, feast of devotees, Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. We would be remiss to continue the Friday football feast without acknowledging a person the constituents, the man, and the bosses continue to keep down. But he mashes up openings over Old Soul Cafe, and he produces 9 to noon on a weekday by weekday basis. Nordo back at the station, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a witness? They never let him come to these things. Holy cow.
Oh, good.
Mad producer. Now, keeping up with the Joneses, I believe to be key in this game. Daniel Jones. All right. Now, when you think Daniel Jones, quarterback for the New York Giants, you think a lot of sacks. You think some boneheaded decisions. I mean, my man played 6 games last year and managed to get sacked 30 times. I mean, his sack percentage was 15.8, which is a ridiculously high number.
Wow.
However, the last time we saw the man named Danny Dimes, we played him twice in 2022, and he ran 28 times against the Vikings. I believe the playoff number was 17, and he ran for a bunch of first downs. So, quarterback, Daniel Jones, you think quarterback, you think throwing. With this guy, we got to be wary of his legs, even off the ACL, as we keep up with the Joneses. And good morning.
Well, I think the ACL is really going to sap that from him, Paul, and I don't think we're going to see designed runs in game 1 off the ACL.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be much more in the pocket, and I'll take that. I like knowing where Daniel Jones is, because I'll take my chances stopping his arm. Because he can give games away with his arm. The X factor's always been the running. And you don't know what's coming, if he's going to pop off a long 25-yard run on 3rd and 18 where you think they're forced a punt, and now here's Daniel Jones running for first downs. I think the wheels are off Daniel Jones for this game. They might come back at some point over the course of the season, but not week 1. And if we know he's in the pocket, let's go get him. And let's make him make great passes, because that's not his MO.
And keeping up with the Joneses, as you heard in the mashup to begin the Friday football feast, 2024, the former Packer, Aaron Jones, now wears purple and gold. He's yet to have a carry wearing the colors, because he didn't play in the preseason. Aaron Jones, what kind of a game are we putting him on?
I think he's got a lot of gas left in the tank, Paul. You know, for a guy that's an older running back, the Packers leaned on him last December, like 20 carry stuff, and he was good. I think he can still play. I love the fact that he's talking about how the Vikings training staff has him rolling into the season feeling healthier than any other season that he's had. That's fantastic. And the Giants ranked 28th in run defense last year. I don't see improvements to their run defense.
Yeah.
You know, adding Brian Burns is great for your pass rush. He's not a great run defender. We can go at this team with running the ball. And Aaron Jones is one of the pathways to victory here. Is Vikings control the clock. They use him enough so that he can be really effective. He brings things to the table that Ty Chandler does not. And I'm pretty optimistic about him. Now, what's interesting about Jones, he's the best pass-catching running back we've had in a long time. Dalvin can catch.
Yeah.
Jones is at a whole different level. But get this, Paul. Here's the Giants against pass-catching runners last year. They ranked number 1 in receptions allowed to running backs, as in the fewest in the league.
Yeah.
They ranked number 2 in receiving touchdowns allowed to running backs, just 1 all year, and number 4 in receiving yards to running backs.
Yeah.
So this might not be the game where we unfurl Aaron Jones as an elite pass catcher. but I mostly consider I'm really optimistic about what he can do on the ground here.
One key, which is absolutely a key, about which I'm thinking quite a bit the closer we get to the game, is some new Minnesota Vikings corners. Okay, so Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin, they both have accomplished quite a bit during their careers. Specifically, Stephon Gilmore. Byron Murphy Jr. would be the other one, but he was here last year. Now, Gilmore and/or Griffin have not played since last season.
Yeah.
So, you can work away from facilities and then sign. Griffin got nicked up in the preseason. And then you can work with strength and conditioning and the training staff and stuff like that to get ready for a season. But until you get those legs, specifically at this stage of careers for them, specifically the new guy Gilmore, it is fair to say that our corners are going to be tested by Malik Neighbors, who's very, very fast, and he's very, very young, and he's very, very fast. And just making sure in this spot, in this game, that our corners can run off the layup. And I think it's fair to say, because they're both veterans.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. We don't know where they are in terms of adapting to this scheme. Gilmore's only been here, Paul, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And, granted, he's got all the veteran savvy and know-how, but some of it is still the physical part of the game and, what kind of conditioning that they're in. And they will get tested in a way that the Giants wide receivers generally don't test anybody in the past. But Malik Neighbors, Paul, looks like a freaking beast. And one of the things we found out in that Giants Hard Knock series is this was their number one wide receiver, not Marvin Harrison. This was the guy they wanted.
Really?
They passed on the quarterbacks that were available to go get him.
Yeah.
They love this kid, and the training camp reports were absolutely glowing. And if there's one rookie wide receiver that's going to splash on Sunday in terms of a lot of usage, I don't think it's Marvin Harrison. I don't think it's Rome Odunze. I think it's going to be this kid, Malik Neighbors, with a lot of balls thrown his way, and they'll test this new look Vikings set of cornerbacks in which really only Byron Murphy returns from last year.
When Tiki Barber joins at 10:35-ish, one thing that intrigues me, and I purposely didn't read stories about it, is so he played 10 years. All right, so this is the 100th season of New York Giants football, and Tiki was part of the covenant for 10% of it. He played 10 years, won a Super Bowl. His final 2 games, all right. He in his final 2 games, he set a franchise record in the final regular season game with 224 rushing yards.
Yeah.
And then in the playoff loss, he had 100 and change. My man went out with 371 rushing yards in his final 2 games. Why'd you leave? I mean, seriously.
I got the same thing in my notes. He had a 10-year career, Tiki Barber did. He got better over the 10 years, and he left at basically the height of his career. And 10 years is a long time. I expect Tiki Barber will say, I was beat up. I did it for a long time. But a little bit like Robert Smith, he left coming off the best seasons of his career.
Good call.
Only nobody does that.
Good call. Tiki Barber at 10:35 with some adversarial updates. And when we return, Chad Greenway, thanks to Grey Duck Spirits and Grey Duck Vodka, joins us at the Friday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale. Hey, are you guys feeling a Vikings victory this weekend? Because I am. I think they begin 1-0, and I know that's a shocker. TimberTech, TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon? Provided by TimberTech and TimberTech.com. Nordo produces from the 651 Carpets Plus studios. On site, the producer and engineer is Jared Wells. And with Paul Charchi, and I'm Paul Allen. This is season 15 of the Friday football feast. And we got the Giants this weekend to crack open things. Greenway joins us around the corner. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be right back.
Football Feast.
ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Grey Duck Vodka and Spirits. Can I get a witness? And a raucous round of applause for Chad Greenway joining us at Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale for the Friday football feast. This is year 15 of the Friday football feast, and feels like Chad's been part of every single one. Hey. Now, Chad, in his career against the Giants, was quite accomplished. He went 5-2 against the Giants. He had 2 interceptions against the New York Football Giants in 2007, and in 2007. An interception from Eli Manning was not the first interception of your career. That was the week before against the Oaktown Raiders. But the interception from the arm of Eli Manning at the Meadowlands was the first of something in your career. What was that?
Little touchdown.
Hey! 37 yards out, and there he goes. Nacho Lieber and E.J. Henderson I went and watched the video of it, sprinting down there to be with their buddy, and overall in 5-2 against the New York Giants in that game in 2007, man. I mean, I think Welding Moore had a punt return touchdown. Yep. Sharper was in the mix with something. You had this thing, but the strange thing here is. So you would think, killing the New York Football Giants, I think the Vikings ran up 41 on them in that game in 2007, Adrian Peterson's rookie year. Oh, by the way, the Giants would go on to win the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, I was waiting for the shoe to drop on that one.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like, hey, they're not that good.
Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was the Coughlin face game season 2 when he was at Lambeau Field. And
what do you mean face game?
When his face froze off of his body.
Remember how red it was? And it just became all puffy and everything. But welcome back to the feast, my brother. Things well?
Things are great. It's so good to be back at the feast. I don't know how many years it's been. You said 15 years at the feast.
15 for the feast.
How many for Greenway at the feast? I call in every week.
Yeah.
Go back into the studio.
What do I look like, Jenny Greenway?
Probably 6.
No idea.
I would guess 6.
Oh, way more than that.
You think so?
Way more than that. That's embarrassing to even guess that low.
A time with you drags.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think you're not factoring in right now. It might be 8 years. It feels like more. I don't know.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that could be.
I think you're waiting for a Dwight Smith pick 6.
Was it Dwight?
Too.
Yeah.
In 07. I think Sharper, Smith, and myself.
Yep.
They go on to win the Super Bowl. It was terribly sad because we just punished that team. And then they get hot. Eli got hot in the playoffs. Is what he does.
I don't think Eli had an opponent that he performed worse against than Minnesota.
Right.
I mean, Hall of Fame level career. And
I can picture that because he played Tampa too, 99.7% of snaps.
Really?
So it's like, hard to discern what we're going. We're going to drop into a little shell coverage, maybe drop into a zone underneath, and we just picked him apart. So I guess you have to play man. If he played man, he'd have torched us.
Maybe so. But, you guys always had him figured out, and all the, put him on so many bad games, and you did roll into games. Honestly, you got to a point where I'm like, Eli doesn't worry me that much.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, the man defense component, I mean, it ties into Sunday. Because Flores has said it, and with the corners they have. I mean, think about this, man. I've said this before 9 to noon, but last year into the first game of the year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with a Caleb Evans and Byron Murphy Jr., then Mekhi Blackman as the third corner at that stage of the equation. That was a combined 61 games of NFL experience. You take Gilmore and Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy Jr., and put Fabian Moreau in that thing. That's 441 games of NFL experience.
What?
However, all right. So now
slow.
When you see on 2nd and 7 or longer, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 or longer. Hey, that's our Alabama rookie Dallas Turner mugging the A gap like Greenway and Lieber used to do occasionally. Hey, that's Patrick Jones in there mugging the A gap with Van Ginkel on one side and Grenard on the other. The Swiss Army knife terrorism, though. I think the rush is going to be really, really good early in the season. Well, if they want to play more man with their corners, all right, is it fair to say with Gilmore, who hasn't played since last year, and he's definitely in the second half of his career, Shaq Griffin was hurt during training camp, didn't play any preseason games, hasn't played since last year, just with those two because they're outside guys. If I'm Brian Daboll calling the plays for the New York Giants, I max protect at least 5 times, and I don't care if it's double coverage to Malik Neighbors eventually with a safety. I gotta. These corners need to show me they can run. You know what I'm saying? At this stage of their careers, you haven't played since last year. You just signed recently for Stephon. In what ways can they make sure these corners can run, the Giants? And if you're Flores, well, you know that they know that you know. So how are you going to combat it? And good morning.
Yeah, and good morning. I think the one thing you look at is how are we going to be attacked and when are we going to be attacked? When are you going to take your shot?
Yep.
And again, when are we going to get the max protection looks to go challenge those guys vertical with maybe a deep underneath route to kind of see if they can get somebody to bite, and then test those corners really on the outside man-to-man to see what they're made of. I think it's going to happen early and often because I think they want to see what they have there. And also, you mentioned it, Charch, in the opener, he's not going to be able to trust his legs like he did.
No way.
You know the mandate coming from the coaching staff and ownership is keep him in the pocket, win with our arm. We can't do that. Look what happened, right? We're sitting early in the season, just coming back off ACL. The confidence that he's going to be dealing with there too. He's going to be a little iffy in the pocket. He's always been a little iffy in the pocket. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to deal with somebody who's not going to be as comfortable running. So now you're going to put him on some individual routes on the outside. Say, hey, the ball's going to go here or here based off the read. It's really going to be that simple.
Yep.
And we're going to test these guys on the outside. What I think Flores can do is get creative with his looks and start to show him different things. As you mentioned, we have Swiss Army knives everywhere on that defense.
Yeah.
We have guys that can give you multiple things. They can rush, they can show, they can cover. Flores is going to be creative. In year 2 of this defense, I'm most excited about this team for that reason, because I think we're going to take a massive step right away. Right. And experience does matter.
Right.
Antoine Winfield, experience matters later in his career. When he lost his full-blown speed, he's winning with his eyes. He's winning with his technique.
Yeah.
He's winning with film study to know what they're doing first. So that experience, although you might lose a step here or there, understanding what you're getting and then be able to react to it maybe is more important.
Yeah.
So you had to... Daniel Jones it's his first game off ACL. You had a first game off ACL.
Yeah.
I mean, just how tentative are you at that point? You know, you're at full game speed and you've practiced on it, but it's not the same. What's that first game like off ACL?
Well, I think the difference for me was I played linebacker in training camp. So, like, I had to go play full speed, take on blocks, get off blocks, get into the mix on tackles in training camp and preseason. So I had the live bullet. So going to the Atlanta game, Joey Harrington, elite quarterback.
Yeah.
I was ready because I had been in there.
Okay.
He hasn't been touched. He hasn't been tackled. He hasn't been drugged down awkwardly. He hasn't had to run from somebody to make a throw. You know, he probably has done that, but not with the actual intent of getting taken down and hit.
Right, yes.
So it's going to be different for him. There's no question about it than what a linebacker would go through. Having said that, when the bullets are flying, again, you do just go react as an athlete. So he's not going to be like, oh, coach told me not to run. He's going to go play. But does he have the same ability he had when he is forced into that spot where he's got to go run?
Would you, if you were Brian Flores, would you send some extra pressure to try to make Daniel Jones take some hits and maybe put some doubt into his head about that knee early in the game, just to get him thinking about it, right? Just to put that into his head. And even if that means you might give up some big plays, it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into those rush situations and all of a sudden you're getting guys coming off blockers, you have twist stunts and guys coming off the edge, and all of a sudden you get pushed into a quarterback, maybe hits him in the hips and slides down to the legs, and he kind of falls over awkwardly. It's like, as much as we can do that early to be like, yep, we're here.
Yep.
Stay in the pocket. We're going to hit you all day, and we're going to pick you if you throw it. It's going to be a real simple game for us.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. Let's go to our quarterback.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from Sam Darnold? What would be a successful debut game from Sam Darnold?
It's less about Sam for me. It's more about the coaching staff put him in a situation of what he does well. Here's the reason why I'm excited. We have guys on the outside that when we get man coverage, we can win quick. We can win almost at any position right now, albeit tight end maybe with our guy not quite back yet. But on the outside in the slot, we have guys that can win across the board in man coverage. Addison's going to be massive because now you can't just always go double. Like, you have to account for two really big-time players.
Yeah.
Keep things very simple. Get the ball out of his hand quick. Again, but all of a sudden now it's 3rd and 12.
Right.
Ball can't come out of his hand quick.
Right.
It's a 5-step drop, 7-step drop. And that's what you mentioned also in the opener. You hit all the key spots in the opener. We got to protect him. Give him time. Let him be patient. Let that outbreaking route come open. It's 3rd and 10. They're sitting in a zone. Let them see them come to their space. I can make the throw. We know he has the arm talent, but when he's rushed and he gets into decision mode, he hasn't been very good. So it is about Sam. It's more about what is this staff going to be able to do to put him in the spot to let him do what he does well.
Sam, what has really hurt his career and how I think we'll know he's different, can we minimize the negative plays?
Yeah.
Right? And some of that might not even be up to him. Absorbing sacks is not, often not on the quarterback. But can we, I think success for me.
I think if you ask an old lineman, that might be
they might feel differently.
Yeah.
No interceptions would be a great barometer for success for Sam Darnold in this game. And I'm not saying don't make any chances, don't throw into tight windows. How about just no interceptions?
Yep.
That would be a great start. If there is one, you can still win a game. What I don't want to see is the guy who has a career touchdown to interception ratio that's basically even.
Yep.
We want to see clean play from him. And I feel like that'd be a pretty good measure of success in his first NFL
I think
game for the Vikings.
when you look at what a quarterback like Darnold is and how he got to this point, is when you get to your three-step drop, look, your read. You get to your five-step drop, look, read. And all of a sudden, like one or two aren't there.
Yeah.
Not there. Now I'm into the decision mode. Like what's next?
Yeah.
Like that fight or flight, like, okay, where's my check down? Like getting the ball into the spot it's got to be to on the time it has to be. And then if it's nothing there, like you said, instead of making a decision there, it's second quarter, 3-point game, eat the ball.
Yeah.
Eat the ball, punt, rely on your defense, and play the game that way. We're like, we don't need you to go be a hero. Keep us in this football game. Let our defense get going. Let our man coverage options get open.
Yeah.
And let them win. Yeah, but again, ball out of your hand. Let your athletes go win and go make plays for you.
You being an elite linebacking mind. I don't know how much you know about Andrew Van Ginkel. I've heard so many good things about him, and it's like it started. Well, I'm not like Pro Football Focus guy. Okay, I'm not. It's when I say I hear things, it's either from the inside or from people around the league. But from an analytical standpoint, Pro Football Focus or whatever, when they signed him and a lot of these things started to pop, I'm like, wow, holy cow, I had no idea. Ask like this. So those of the analytical variety love him. But it's when it comes to playing on or off the ball. Is every linebacker good at that? Because I guess he's really, really good at both, and that's like a key for his spot. But I'm excited to watch him because we didn't see him in the preseason. I've heard all these wonderful things about him. If you watch a highlight from last year against Washington, and this is you said Antoine Winfield, which triggered this for me. And I'm not putting Van Ginkel in the scholarly mode of one of the greats in the history of the NFL that way, Antoine Winfield. But Winfield knew plays because he was so well studied on tendencies and twitches and things like that. Van Ginkel, he's to the right of Sam Howell, shakes his shoulders. Howell does exactly what he wants him to do. Van Ginkel jumps to his right. Howell throws the right to him, pick six. He knew what play was coming. He knew what to sell to get him to look that way and jump back and have it be thrown right to him.
Yeah, I think when you look at Van Ginkel's body type, it allows him to be as versatile as he is on and off the line of scrimmage because you have to have enough weight, height, length to play in the line of scrimmage and be physical enough, separate with your hands, hold your gap, and make a play. Now, can you step off and be in space and have that awareness? Now, Northwest Iowa kid, he's not a Hawkeye. I don't know how that happened. You want to talk about a Hawkeye. Yeah. Look at that kid.
Right.
And I'm so
you didn't become a jackrabbit. You're a fraud.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, so let's just move on.
Yeah, they were D2 at the time. It's not a fair assessment.
Well, you weren't recruited by anybody, according to you.
The Jackrabbits Stiglmeyer did call me a few times.
Stiglmeyer,
the coach. You know him.
Caitlin versus Cheryl tonight, by the way. We can talk about that later.
That'd be big time.
Anyway, go ahead.
But I just love Van Ginkel's, again, his defense. It's versatility. Everything is versatility with his defense and letting Flores be creative and how he can show looks, bring blitzes, bring pressure, not blitz, come back into cover. We have so many guys that can cover from different areas. I'm so fired up for it.
No, what's nice in your second year with Brian Flores is Kwesi gets to roll into the season knowing that he's got his hopefully long-term defensive coordinator, and you can really start assembling pieces that match what he wants to do. And, this is... You got that luxury. We mentioned Van Ginkel and others that you brought in that match how the versatility that you want to have. And that's part of this defense. is you need people who can do a lot of different things really, really well, because Flores is going to ask you to do that.
Yeah.
If you are a safety in this offense, you have run support. You need to be in the slot doing coverage. You need to be able to blitz. You could line up almost anywhere pre-snap. There is so much versatility you have to have. And now Kwesi has been able to go through a whole season-long process of assembling the right parts.
I think what you never want to rely on building through free agency, right? Because you want to rely on your draft picks and those guys coming up. But how this thing has transpired these last couple of years, as we all know and we've talked about, is we've been forced in some ways to build through free agency.
Yeah.
On the surface, they all look like great fits. Within the defense, they look like great fits. Now it's game time. So what's this going to look like when it gets real? And, we can sit here and prognosticate and diagnose and talk about, but the reality is when we're making plays and calling plays on Sunday, how do those pieces all fit together? And this is, let's be honest, this is a massive part of the success for the Vikings and a massive part of Kwesi's future, which we all want him to be here and have success.
Yeah.
So it's a huge game. I know it's the opener. It's huge in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's bigger on different levels, though, especially with this defense and how we built it.
Well, it's also bigger in that the Niners are next on the schedule, and then after that, the Texans.
Yeah.
And then after that, Green Bay.
Yeah.
And you're
then
at
the Jets.
Lambeau.
Yeah.
Okay, then you go over to England and you play Aaron. So, of all those games, this absolutely on paper, realistically, metaphorically, symbolically, however you want to, this is the most winnable game. And I don't care if it's on the road or not. Now they can win all of them and they can lose all of them. The NFL's just so tightly knit that way. But I think that amplifies it. That teams better than anybody. They don't look down the road and be like, boys, we better get this one because the freaking gauntlet's coming in October. No, it's if it's not a week by week creature of habit bit, teams like that generally disintegrate. But factually speaking, this is the most winnable of the next four.
Yeah, I think when you look at this game, is from a Viking fan perspective, and I think from their perspective is we need to go out there on the road and get a win early and get these kinks worked out. Every NFL team's got the same mentality right now, but because we know what's coming, this is a huge, huge, huge week. It's week one, folks, right?
Yeah.
This is the NFL, but because you know what's coming, we don't talk about it. We're not playing.
Right.
We don't have to worry about game planning. They have to stay focused because there's so much that goes into each week that you can't start to look out. Every week has its own issues. You can go to New York on a 1-16 team and have all sorts of issues.
But see, week one, as maybe you'll attest to this or not, I think of all the weeks 1 and 2 belong to the coaches more than they do the rest of the year. I mean, it's like X's and O's, but I need Jimmy's and Joe's. But like with Daboll Brian Daboll calling plays for them, that's new. Flores with a bunch of new guys, okay, that's new. They have a new defensive coordinator. And you're the perfect person. You're going to think I'm teasing you on this, but I'm not. You're the perfect person to talk to about this because of the Jim Tomsula trick in 15 or 16, whatever that was.
Yes.
You go out to the Bay, second part of a Monday night doubleheader, and they're lining up 4 tight ends and running Carlos Hyde every single play different ways. And you guys were caught off guard because it was all new with Tomsula. Week 2, the Steelers weren't caught off guard and might have scored 50 on them. So, I mean, a week like this is such a big coaches week, don't you think?
It is. I mean, just like last year, look at last year's quarterback situation. We get after the injury, we get who comes in first?
Mullins.
Say his name.
Dobbs.
Wait, why wasn't it Mullins, by the way?
Dobbs looked good in
Back.
practice.
He was hurt.
He had a back.
Mullins was hurt. That was it.
Point being, Dobbs comes in, and you kind of get this week to 2 week sort of honeymoon period where they haven't quite figured out what the Vikings are going to do with Dobbs, new quarterback, new talent.
Right.
All of a sudden, week 3, we can't do anything.
Right.
Because the first couple weeks are for the coaches. Tomsula comes in with 3-4 tight ends, a really creative run game, creating gaps all over the place. More physical than us coming out of training camp.
Yep.
It was very clear.
Yep.
And they won the game.
That hurt.
At their place, on the road, Monday Night Football, against all odds, tough spot to be. But again, they won the game by just running the football in a creative amount of ways with physicality. They won like 4 games that year.
They did.
Yeah.
It was a bad team that got a win against us in week 1.
100%.
Panthers did that to us one season where they beat us in week 1 and never won another game the rest of the year.
There was a rookie from Utah named Steve Smith. Who returned the opening kick of the season. The quarterback was from St. Paul, and he didn't have a ballyhooed career, but Gino Torretta got the victory in that game, and they went out and lost.
Was it Gino Torretta?
Yeah.
Like a vault.
They lost the next 15. It was ridiculous. Steve Smith, opening kickoff. Welcome to the season, though.
That guy was a creature.
He was.
Steve Smith rowing the boat.
Absolute creature.
Rowing the boat. Dude, remember Steve Smith?
Yeah.
Beat the face in on one of his teammates because that guy said something he didn't like. Smith fractured his orbital bone.
Was that with Baltimore?
No, this is when he was with Carolina.
It wasn't Muhsin Muhammad.
No.
Muhsin Muhammad might have whooped everybody.
The Moose.
He was big and rangy. He was really, really good.
Steve Smith, he's that guy, Steve, that you just want on your team, but man, do you hate playing against that guy.
Oh, just perfect example of that guy.
AJ Perzinski of football.
Yeah.
Well, I've used this term before. It's competitive arrogance, and it's actually it may sound like an oxymoron or something that flies in the face of each other, but it's actually a compliment. Where like Steve Hutchinson was competitively arrogant. He's not an arrogant person. He's super competitive, but when you put those two together, it's basically, my man, here's the deal. Over the next 3 hours, you're going to get your butt whooped. But after the game, I'd like to chat with you and help you with your technique so it doesn't happen again. Steve Smith was kind of like, nothing personal. We're just here trying to get that second or third contract.
I'm just better than you.
Right. And Steve Smith was like that, man.
Yeah. And so much attitude.
He had a crackback block on me in the Metrodome. I forget what year it was.
Really?
That I still think about.
Really?
He hit me so hard in the stern.
Harder than LaFell?
It was harder than LaFell.
Wow.
Dang.
LaFell broke your ribs.
LaFell was just that awkward spot where he hit me hard, but it was like helmet to the ribs.
He cheated.
Steve Smith squared me up, decleated me.
Oh, come on.
Wow. When you could do that. Oh, yes. Yes, and I dream about it all the time or have nightmares about it, however you want to look at it.
Wow.
And he stood over me like we had a good professional relationship. I like Steve. We were in the Pro Bowl together. He's like, watch your head, when we said, something crazy. And I'm like, yes, sir.
Well, what was it with you with diminutive football players?
Who else got me?
Maurice Jones-Drew didn't get you.
He didn't get me. Thank you for saying that.
You tackled him and then got up and maybe did a woo! Yep. And then he looks at Chad, and I got this intel from behind the scenes.
Probably from Chad.
It's all true.
No, from somebody else in the Covenant. And it, never was like a public thing. Who cares? Many years ago. Maurice Jones-Drew looked at Chad Greenway during the game and said, there might have been a shut up, but there definitely was a you are the worst first-round pick in the history of the National Football League.
That happened.
And Greenway looks at Maurice Jones-Drew and points up to the scoreboard where the Vikings were killing them and said, well, you can go ahead and take a peek at the scoreboard right now, and that kind of settles everything.
Yeah. He
I may be the worst first-round pick, but I ain't dumb. I can add up the score, and you ain't winning.
Things settled down after I wasn't the worst first-round pick.
Chad Greenway, Grey Duck Vodka, Grey Duck Spirits. We have other games about which we will chat, including Thursday Night Football and the Lid Lifter last night, Green Bay and the Eagles this evening, and some other festivities over the weekend. Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale gets all the Friday Football Feast money today with Paul Charchi, and I'm Paul Allen. Jared Wells, engineers on site. And more feasting on the Fan after this. All right, all of the KFAN reporters are all over your boy right now, and they're all right. It was Nordo and Johnny the Mouse Mickelson, captain of the 83 Wayzata Club hockey team, the most formidable club hockey team in the history of hockey, and Mouse wore the C. They both hit me at the same time, so it's a Covenant cleanup provided by nobody. The quarterback in the Steve Smith game, not Gino Torretta, Chris Winkie.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Chris Winkie, St. Paul, Chris Winkie. And when I said Torretta, I knew I made a mistake, but I didn't want to stop things because I couldn't think who it was. So, Nordo, Matt producer, thank you. And, the Moose! Thank you very much. Covenant cleanup provided by nobody. Did you guys watch the... wasn't that neat? Did you guys watch the game last night? And if so, what'd you think? Charch first.
Credit Baltimore for, they were outplayed almost the whole game, I thought. and then managed to get within 1 inch of beating the champs in their own stadium.
It's a good
in
thing
opening week.
Lamar Jackson's a really good passer, and he hit that guy back left of the end zone to tie the game.
That hurt, right?
It was Isaiah Likely. Likely's the bomb.
Likely, we knew he was good.
Yeah.
But
I got Likely in 2 leagues. Both in the 11th round or 10th round.
Where's he from? I don't know.
It's good. I have no idea. But he was Mark Andrews' backup. All right. And Andrews is a fast beef eater, but he always gets hurt. Yep. Well, when he was out last year, Likely blew up. I mean, we're talking 80 yards a game, 120s, 1 and 2 touchdowns, super athletic tight end. And Andrews played last night, but it was Likely who was trying to steal the show. And by the way, this kind of took place last year in the postseason with Zay Flowers and that fumble and how he handled himself. I'm out on Zay Flowers. I mean, he can't shut his mouth. He just cannot shut his mouth, man, and he's always on the wrong side of things, you know?
Yeah. Coastal Carolina,
Isaiah Likely.
The Chanticleer.
Wow.
Catching passes from Tyler Thigpen.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
I just thought, I watched a very little bit of it, probably a quarter after some high school soccer last night. It's just so good to have it back. It's so fun. It's so dramatic. And, of course, the NFL script obviously came out, and the writers were like, let's start it this way. And they're like, nobody will believe it can be this dramatic. But yeah, here we are. We're watching last night, and it's that dramatic. It's so good. Down to the inch.
Yeah.
Where, like, people thought the game was, going to keep going and keep playing and be over, and just incredible. So it was fun. Fun to have it back, obviously. And I mean, it was a great game and a great way to start. I thought when the Ravens, when he got out of the pocket and started running, is when things really opened up.
Oh, for sure.
And then obviously when Lamar gets open field, he's dynamic.
But it's the same old bit.
Yeah,
it's the same old bit. I mean, 100%. He can run, and yes, he can cut, and yes, he can take hits. But he settles for it late in games. He has a swivel. I mean, I don't know if he has a great swivel. Like Justin Fields has no swivel, and I guess we'll find out this weekend if he found his swivel. But Lamar, in the big spot pass, it just never, ever happened.
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But I mean, he did look good. I mean,
he's been the MVP twice.
Yeah,
right.
It's not.
What's it gotten him?
It's not like he has not been able to. He has not been able to put it away in the playoffs. He got to the AFC Championship game last year.
Who would you rather have, a player like that or Eli Manning? Eli Manning postseason for show or postseason for dough and regular season for show. So Lamar can have all the MVPs he wants until he makes something happen in the postseson. Big deal.
Well, let's let his career take shape, though. You're cutting him off.
Well, how long has he been in now?
I know he's been there. I know he's done that. I get it, but he's.
I like Lamar.
I get it, but my point is like when you look at, you're going to compare it to a career like Eli.
Yeah.
Right? You're looking back at an entire career where Eli had some really bad seasons and games and did hang 2 of them.
Yeah.
Lamar's not done yet,
and he was the MVP in both.
Yeah, and Lamar's not done yet, though. Is my point.
Okay.
And I would argue though Lamar's had a better defense and team around him than Eli did for most.
But I would argue,
if we're going to just argue those two,
Lamar Jackson, I don't believe you'll ever be able to count on him to be a 65% or higher passer in the postseason and find dimes on 3rd and 8 with the clock running and 45 seconds to go in the AFC title game, and you just got to make that thing happen. They're all knuckleballs and loops, and it never looks right.
Well, you see like how Mahomes uses his legs, right? It's the big spot, 2nd down, 3rd down to extend a drive, and it's 3 to 4 times a game, maybe, or Lamar looks there too much, too fast. It's like he just can't make that play down the field yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit easy to look at Lamar's career and say he should have been in the Super Bowl already. Well, he got to the AFC Championship game and lost to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be awfully good and have that happen to you and not get to a Super Bowl.
Right. I'm not trying to turn this into Lamar Jackson fan line, but anybody who watches his passes in big situations sees the same thing every single year.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So, hey, it may happen. That's great.
That for sure is true.
Green Bay and Philadelphia tonight. What do you guys like?
Well, this will be interesting. Philadelphia's season last year was kind of unbelievable and a total roller coaster. At one point, they're, I believe, 10-0, 10-1, and they lose to the Jets. The wheels just come off of a team that looked like a juggernaut. They were the last unbeaten team. And you couldn't have convinced anybody that they, at that stage, at this point it's like middle of November, that they were not going to be a factor in the playoffs. And their defense turned rancid. Their secondary, awful. Bradbury was bad. It just, so many things went wrong. They ended up firing their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator. They went with established veteran coordinators. Vic Fangio, who you both know very well. Kellen Moore, long pedigree. So they decided, they had prior gone with more untested guys. Like, all right, we're taking proven people as our coordinators now. And then Howie Roseman just attacked his secondary with draft picks. First round pick into the secondary, second round pick into the secondary. And
they moved Bradbury to safety.
To safety where maybe they can get a little more work out of him. Yeah. So very interested to see which version of the Eagles we get. The first half version that looked basically unbeatable, or the second half version that just looked completely out of sync.
That's what, but the NFL season, you just described it, right? It's so hard to have a consistent excellence for 5 months with this level of competition, 4 months with this level of competition. And even a team as good as the Eagles, as talented as they were, man, the talent level on that team was high.
Yeah.
And you still have these ebbs and flows and be really good and really bad all at the same time within the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's just how NFL teams figure you out, and also how the schedule lays itself out sometimes. If this is going to come, this is the one that's in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Who can travel better? Who can get down there and have their legs? That part will play a factor. I like the Eagles because I don't like the Packers. So I don't.
Sure,
let's go Eagles.
That works. We can do it that way. One thing that I found interesting: the home team, I believe, is the Eagles for this one. The designated home team. They get to stay at a hotel right next to the stadium. The Packers
are in Venezuela.
They are. They're a 2-hour bus ride away.
That's not true.
It is true.
That had to be choice.
Well, I don't know. That's what I saw.
Their box, Wayne Larrabee, sent me a picture 2 days ago because I booked him for the show yesterday. And the armed military with long rifles and machine guns and everything outside of the hotel, outside of his hotel. That was aggressive to see that.
Crazy.
Brazil's more like a second world country.
Stop that, honey.
This thing is a little bit tricky that way. Now,
hold up on the Brazil tourism ad somebody was working on.
Right, we were working hard on that one. The Packers. The Packers, they get to see if Jordan Love is worthy of being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
On a very small sample size, they rewarded him big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody assumes everything's going to go great, and it probably will.
Yeah.
They have 4 promising receivers. They got 2 promising tight ends. But most of the story on Jordan Love has yet to be told.
Yes, agreed. That's just the position, though, you're in now with quarterbacks. It's like, if you have one that you really like, you sort of have to double down and go get it. And we'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Can I get one more thing with Chad?
Sure.
I want to ask you a little bit about the Mike Zimmer story that hit.
I did not read this. I've only heard about it.
And I'll just the highlights here.
I caught a stray.
You did. You did catch a stray.
I love that term, by the way. I mean, I've known it over the years, but never used it or read it or whatever.
It's like, hey.
And then somebody said it to me. It was Florio over the weekend. He's like, you caught a stray. I'm like, yeah, that term is the bomb. I need to use that.
It's perfect here. So I'll just hit you with the highlights,
okay.
and I don't expect you to
Was I in it?
No,
okay.
You're not in it. Whew. But a lot of defensive players were. He pretty bitter since his firing. Hasn't watched the Vikings game, which I can understand. The team fired you, right? Yeah. He had a falling out. The falling out with Spielman goes all the way back to the Kirk signing, and those two barely spoke from that point forward, which is a lot of dysfunction.
That sounds I love you, Mike Zimmer, but that sounds a little bit like his personality.
Players complained that Zimmer was very fast to answer, rarely praised anybody, and had very little personal accountability for things that went wrong. Kellen Mond, in particular, came out and said he never had a single word spoken between him and Mike Zimmer.
Wow. I can't believe that.
Not a word.
Yeah.
And players have said that Zimmer was basically unapproachable. So, that was some of the highlights. You obviously were there with Zimmer for a long time. Did those things mesh with what you saw, or were things different for you? I think, you were a respected defensive team leader, so things may have been very different for you.
Yeah, the first thing Mike Zimmer did come in was ask for me to take a pay cut, and that was a fun start. And then but from there on, I was motivated by going to prove myself that I was still good enough in my 9th year, and I played for 3 more years under Mike. And I think earned a lot of mutual respect for Coach Zimmer. And I think that his approach is just very old school and very cold and wants things done a certain way. And I don't think that resonates with kids as well coming into the league, certainly. I had seen a lot of that in my career, just with coaches I played with and grew up with and everything else, so it wasn't as a shock to me. But I was also a veteran. He respected. I think I earned more of his respect as my time went on with him. I saw a lot of personal accountability within the practice, within the film, within the team. Maybe not as much overtly out in the public, in the media, maybe, but because he despised the media so much. I think that was part of it. But I saw a lot of that when we're watching film and we get beat on a look, and he would own the fact that we weren't prepared for that look. Mm-hmm. And the coaches would have had to do more. So I think, was he perfect? Obviously not. But it's also, he opened himself up to this criticism because, he brought this out. So, but I had a great 3 years with Coach Zimmer. I left my career knowing that he was the best defensive mind I'd ever played for, hands down. And I actually kind of liked his approach. Yeah. But it was football. Mm-hmm. And for a guy that had 4 kids and other things going on, that wasn't always easy.
I bet.
Hey, anything with Grey Duck we need to know about?
Yeah, we're in Huntington Bank Stadium now.
Wow.
Ooh, yes.
All right.
We're in Huntington Bank.
Big move.
Gophers, big move.
Oh, helping NIL or something like that?
Yeah, well, we have we help with NIL. We have the 16-ounce Duck beers now, which is sweet.
Oh, okay.
We have our vodkas in there. Our seltzers are in there. And also our Nitro Cold Brew is back with Caribou.
Yes.
We're for sure in all the Total Wines. We're getting everything out right now. So go ask for it. It is back by popular demand and better than ever. So we are now relaunching that in the market. So sweet.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Hey,
you guys.
Chad Greenway, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause. 9 to noon continues from Buffalo Wild Wings Oakdale after this.